Thank you for joining us at the Artist Tree. I am your host, Lonita Cook, and we are part 2 of our conversation with the fiction writers group at the Writers Place. We are going to talk about the purpose of writing, which I think for most of us is publication, right?
Absolutely.
Go ahead and introduce yourselves for the audience.
I'm Daniel Gooden, and
Kent Babb.
Richard Twillman.
All right, and I'm Lonita Cook. And we are all writing fiction and members of this writers group. Let's talk publication. Any of us published?
Not fiction.
yeah. Richard and I are both self-published.
Both self-published? Yeah. And you are published as a journalist, right? You write for the Kansas City Star and Times. Is it the Kansas City Star and Times?
Just the Star.
Just the Star?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's talk about the big issue in publishing, which is traditional publication versus self-publication or electronic publication or independent.
There you go.
Independent, that's right.
Publication. When you say you're self-published, did you publish online?
Well, it's, you know, the publishing industry has changed so much. I mean, traditionally, you had the gatekeepers, you know, the agents. You got your agent, and he shopped it, found a publisher, and that's been the traditional way of getting done. And there's a certain vetting, and there's a certain credibility to getting it done that way. The game has changed so much here just recently with not only the e-books, you know, because anybody can get an e-book up there on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Smashwords, and a bunch of other ones within a day or two. I mean, it doesn't take anything to do an e-book. The print on demand that's available now, you know, I can get a book up and back in my hands within a couple of days from a number of different sources.
Yeah, with no huge down payment.
With
like
nothing. I mean, absolutely.
Your inventory.
You know, it used to be to self-publish a printed book. It was all done in offset presses, and to do a run less than 500 books was just cost prohibitive. And even if you do 500 or 1,000 books, you're still going to pay for a 200-300 page novel $7-8 a piece, and you end up with a garage full of books, and bookstores don't want them. Right. But now, because there's so many places to buy books, you don't have to go into the local, you know, brick and mortar store to buy them. You can do it online, which, you know, a lot of people are doing, and the reader doesn't really care who published the book. You know, he's not going around saying, "Hey, I've got a McMillan book, or I've got a Putnam book." I've got a really good story, you know, right. And that's what he wants. And so, but it has to be a good book. It has to be, you know.
So basically, what you're saying is that online presence has kind of really changed the game. You say that's true also for the paper?
Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe even more so. I mean, the fact that, you know, the sort of the standing joke in the newspaper business is, are newspapers even going to be around in 5 years? Well, the same is true, I think, for publishing houses. Are they going to be? I mean, are we going to be reading paper books in 5, 10, 15 years? I don't know. I mean, and the way I look at it, as a young writer who'd like to someday have some of his fiction work published and consumed and bought. This presents a whole new world of opportunity, but it also presents a new kind of challenge, because when you have more people enter the battle royal, there's a lot more competition to be great, to be really, really good. If there's more people in there, it's a little harder to survive, I think. But, you know, in the old days with the publishing industry, like you said, you have the gatekeeper, and if you can get past the gatekeeper, you know, you're in pretty good position. Now there's not as much of a gatekeeper, but there's a lot more people in there that you have to sort of beat out. If you want to write mainstream fiction and sell it and get in the, you know, start getting your wallet a little fatter when it comes to writing, that's another kind of challenge. But to me, you know, Act 1 of the goal is to get published, and I think this makes this a little easier.
So Act 1, I think that people might disagree with that Act 1 would actually be building your platform, because there are so many people. I mean, if everybody's a writer, then who's really a writer? Right. You know what I mean? If I can just write whatever I want and then just put it up with no gatekeeper, because those gatekeepers serve a purpose, right?
Yeah, yeah. And agents would love to have you come to them and say, I already have this blog where I have 10,000 people that come and check on what I'm saying on a daily basis. And if you have that going for you, then yeah, you get in with agents and publishers so much faster.
But by the same token, if you built that kind of an audience for your books, you don't really need traditional publishing.
No, because you got 10,000 people.
You've already got 10,000, and a publisher anymore, unless you're an A-lister up there, they're going to expect you, to do just what Daniel said, to do the marketing, to go out there. You prepared to get the blog, prepared to do this, prepared to do the book deals, and all the other stuff. So you're going to have to do a lot of marketing anyway.
So whether you're self-published online or traditionally published, you are responsible for the marketing yourself.
Right, and real quick there, the one thing I think that sort of goes to the last question is, we were talking about a writer's group and having people you trust to read this, because once the agents and things like that are not so prevalent, not as essential as they once were, you need people that you can trust and who are right when they read your book or read your short story or whatever, that they're going to tell you if it's true or not. An example with me is I've got ideas, what kind of book would be a better one to write? I don't know. So those are questions that you have to be able to ask and get good answers to before you go down that occasionally dark path.
Yeah. Writer's group, so much more imperative for that, to have somebody to vet your stuff. So
right. So you think that, because I'm thinking about the credibility component to being published, I know that as a little girl, sitting in front of my favorite toy, which was my typewriter, and dreaming about being a writer, it was always with that romantic view of, ding, 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 I'm finished, and then you bind it and you ship it off to that publisher and they assign you an editor right away. I mean, that is...
It's not the case anymore. A couple of reasons. One is the publisher won't accept anything unless it comes to an agent. An agent's going to look at the market out there, whether or not, and he's basically interested in just getting his advance, okay? I mean, you're getting your advance and then making the money. And then the publishers really don't spend that much time with the writers anymore. Editors come and go with these publishing houses. They're not really doing that good critique editing, and that, I mean, they'll have a copy editor come through and do the line stuff, but content editing might not even be on, in that. So it's, if from me personally, was going to the independent route was because I've got to go out and do all the marketing anyway. I would rather reap a little bit more of the reward. I'd gladly give up an agent's fee if somebody else would go out and market it.
Right. And it's not necessarily a little bit of amount of the reward. I mean, you're roughly 12 to 15% of your profits if you go with a publisher. But the Amazon scale, if you sell your book for $1, you get 30% profit. If you sell it for $3, you get 70%. So at just the scale that you could sell on for $1, anybody will throw $1 away. I mean, you can't even buy a Coke for $1 now. But if you buy a book, I mean, they'll snatch it up. You can.
And does that include electronic books and paperback books? I mean, this is all being independently published.
Yeah, it depends on where you go. But Barnes & Noble and Amazon are the two big ones, and Amazon is obviously the biggest one. But you have the ability to make a lot more money if you independently publish with them than if you go on the traditional route.
Wow.
So
considerably more.
Yeah, you asked about credibility before, and I would say, I love creating my work, and it's very exciting, the artistic part of it. But credibility for me is having some money to say I'll buy my kids something with the career I chose, paid for that. It'd be pretty exciting. So
let's go ahead and take a break. But we need to talk about the monetary aspect and the agent is the agent becoming obsolete. I mean, that's really what I fear.
It's changing.
It's changing.
Yep.
Okay. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
And now, another adventure with Savings Man.
Oh dear, I can't afford that.
Charge it. You can pay it off later.
Not so fast, credit card guy.
Savings Man.
Don't let him entice you, ma'am. Credit card guy can lead you to big trouble. You need a savings plan.
You're right, Savings Man.
Get this ballpark estimate worksheet at choosetosave.org. It will help you get started.
Gee, thanks, Savings Man.
No, thank you.
So visit choosetosave.org and get your ballpark estimate today.
Thank you for staying with us at the Artist Tree. Our guest Kent Babb had to run, but still with us in the studio are Daniel Gooden and Richard Twillman, and we are discussing publishing, a writer's dream, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So both of you have been self-published, e-published, or published online.
Yeah.
I am a traditionalist, and I think that submitting your work to a publisher, to an agent, getting representation, I still favor that, and letting them represent you to a publisher. Why do you think, do you think that the agent is becoming obsolete with the ability of writers to just do it themselves?
Well, I think just the big 6 publishing companies of their own are becoming obsolete. Agents are going to have to change their focus, and are already. There are a few agencies that promote their authors' books online themselves and sell them through their own websites. J.A. Conrath, who's a big advocate of self-publishing, I read his blog a lot. He's actually turned over all his layout and his cover work to his agent. So instead of the agent pushing his work onto the publishing companies, they're handling the middle work there, getting the cover done and getting the layout perfected and the editing done. So they're kind of taking over some of the big publishers' job in that fashion, and that's what they'll have to do to survive, I believe.
Well, I don't know if you know, how do they get their agent fee then? Because they usually get their agent fee from the publisher, for the publishing house.
Yeah, Conrath, I believe, is giving them 15% of profits off of it.
And I would love to have an agent, right? Because they're going to go out marketing the book to a publisher anyway. I would just soon give him that 15%, him or her 15%, to do a lot of the marketing, and the promotion, the PR work, So I think Daniel's right when I see that agent becoming more and more of a PR person, public relations, that sort of thing, and and then the writer can come in and do the marketing.
But do you also agree that the 6 big houses are becoming obsolete?
I think that they're nervous about it, because it's not just online, because we make those connections online, but it's not just online publishing. People are going online and buying books, but my book's available in stores, and that, so it's not just online where you can do it. Now this is generated online; it all starts online, but with the print on demand, for books now, you can buy 1 book, you can buy 20, and the price is the same.
Now, when you are published through a traditional publisher, they give you a certain amount of authors' copies. Is that the same online?
No, you have to buy them. But they're limited. I think authors' copies, what do you get, 15 or 20 or something like that?
Yeah, right.
Then you have to buy them, at the bookstore price. So if you've got a $30, hardback, you're going to pay, the bookstore price is 60% of that.
Yeah, and you publish on Smashwords, which is another distribution site that gives out to Apple and to Barnes and Noble and different things. And you can generate your own coupon codes and give your book away for free as promotional, or to your friends or family or things like that. So in a way, you've got your own. Yeah,
because that's what I did with Amazon. They've got a create space there, so I can create this code. In fact, I did put it on Facebook. That if you wanted to buy it on Facebook, and got $2 or $3 off the price, which covered the shipping.
So, and we're all on Twitter, on the social networking sites, and on Twitter, I've noticed that a lot of people who do have books on Amazon.com and Smashwords, they're giving their work away for free. And you said that you can do that. Why would a writer do that if you've spent all this time and you've bypass the agent and the publisher, you have no advance? Why would you give that work away for free?
It's a promotional thing. With the way Amazon runs it, you've got, I think it's 5 days that you give the work away. And there's several places that you can go to online that will link to that, okay? And basically it's building a reader base.
Yeah, word of mouth. And also, it may make less sense if you only have 1 work out there, but if you have a number of titles available, like I've got 1 novel out and I'm trying to get another one out, but I also want to get my short story works out, get 2 or 3 in a collection or 1 in a collection, and then collect them all together. You can mix them up, mash them up. But the more titles you have out there, you might find somebody that really likes one story, and it's going to lead them back to all the other ones. You give one away for free and sell the rest of them at $3, it's going to pull them back through your whole catalog.
And I was just reading something this morning from one of my newsletters that even though they've given the book away, the people that have downloaded it for free have gone back and bought it.
Right.
You know, so you're going to give away the ebook version of it. You know, whether it's the Kindle or the Nook or whatever, you're going to give away that. But some people like to have a physical book in hand, and so they'll come back and buy the paperback.
If I get a good book at the library, I'll do that. Yeah, same thing.
So if you check out a book at the library, which I guess
like I really
is
like
kind
that.
of an equivalent, you'd go buy it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so you both have been published. Let's go ahead and talk about, you said you have one novel online. When you put your novel online, is it just through one, what is it, sponsor
one
site?
store, one channel, yeah. Well, as I said, Amazon is the biggest one. And Smashwords is a smaller competitor who they distribute to, I think, 7 different places, Barnes & Noble being a big one, and Apple, as I said. And so just get them into the smaller stores. But there are a variety of places you can put it out. And you can also sell your book on your own site, build your own web page. And
simultaneously?
Oh, yeah.
And so how are these sites making money then? Because of course your agent gets a fee, the publisher gets a percentage of the sales. Does Amazon get a percentage of this?
Well, yeah. Basically what Amazon, the way it works is it doesn't cost Amazon any money at all to keep your book, on a hard drive someplace.
Right.
Okay. And then when somebody wants it, hit a button and it's downloaded if it's an ebook. Or you hit another button and it's printed. These were printed in South Carolina, I think, and so they're not out anything. So in other words, they sell the book. If you buy the paperback from Amazon, it's $11.
Okay.
So they're getting the majority of that money, to pay for the printing and the paper and everything else. And so they're making a profit without really having to stock anything.
And so this book that you have here, this is his novel. Another Voyage, A Different Dream. This is the book, like this paperback that I'm able to hold in my hands. Yes. This is the book that you published online.
Well, you see publishing it online. I mean, I used, that's the telephone line that I got to get it done, yes. But I mean, it's, you just upload it to Amazon. Basically, you upload it, the manuscript to Amazon, and like magic. I knew I was going to get magic in there someplace.
Right.
They literally, I mean, you come back and they'll proof it. They'll send you proof copies. You have to buy some proof copies. Go through, take a look at the proof copies, make any corrections as necessary, send it back, and you can do that in any number of times until you get the book looking like you want it to look, and then you can put it up there and it's gone.
But there are all sorts of people that have services now. You can buy an editor to do a flat rate look over of your book. You can buy, or you can hire somebody to do your cover art, and so you can get it looking as professional as a publisher, as a proper publisher could.
And this looks as professional as a publisher, as if I'd walked into Barnes & Noble and
grabbed it off the shelf.
Grabbed it off the shelf. Does it have an ISBN?
Yeah.
Yeah?
On the back.
Okay. Well, we are going to go ahead and take a break, and we're going to get back into how to create a self-independent published book. Stay with us, guys. We'll be right back.
Back off, old man!
And we are back. We are still talking with my friends and fellow writers, Richard Twillman and Daniel Gooden, and we are talking about self-publishing, independent publishing, online. I've been corrected. It's self-publishing has kind of a stigma attached to it because of the way things used to be done, correct? And so now when we talk about publishing through Amazon.com or Smashwords, it's independent publishing. And what kind of attitude do readers have about e-published books?
Well, I think that's changing. As you said, there was a stigma, but it's because it cost a lot to get your book out there, and now it doesn't. Now it costs nothing to put it out. There's some big authors are shifting away from publishing companies. I mentioned J.A. Conrath, Blake Crouch. They've all given up publishing deals because they've seen that they have platforms. They have established readers that will come to them and buy off of Amazon, and they're making a lot more money than they would with their traditional publishing.
So you don't think that, I mean, because the way I'm seeing it, and I could be wrong, is that being traditionally published is kind of an elite experience at this point.
Not necessarily. I've gone in as I mentioned before, when you buy a book, when you walk into a bookstore, you look at the cover, you do this, you look at the back, and you do this. You don't look at the publisher. Right. You know, you don't really care. I mean, as a reader, you don't really care who the publisher is. And it's not necessarily an elite thing, because I've picked up a lot of books, you know, from traditional publishers. They're crap. I mean, they're just horrible. I mean, they haven't been edited properly. There's just so many mistakes in there, and they're just really not very good books. And so just because it comes from a traditional publisher does not mean that it's going to be a good book. You know, well written, well laid out, well thought out, or anything like that. And so I think that line, like mentioning earlier, John Grisham, his first book was self-published, Time to Kill. He sold that out of the trunk of his car. Here, the big story was about 10 years ago, Redfield with Celestine Prophecy. You know, he went around selling that out of the trunk of his car. And you know, Time Warner eventually picked him up. Amanda Hocking, I mean, she's had tremendous success with $2 million worth of self-published work online.
You're saying that she self-published her book and sold $2 million worth of...
She made, not $2 million worth, she made $2 million.
Yeah.
And in what, about a year and a half, something like that?
Yeah, she had, I don't know, 5 to 10 novels written, published online. Yeah. And
you know, she's in her mid-20s, and so the reader is wanting a good story well told.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's, you know, you're asking a reader to invest not just a few dollars for the book, but several hours of their time. You know.
Okay, so let me ask you this: we're in a writers group. You guys have been in this writers group for a few years. So talk to me about the process. When we're in the group, we're getting your fresh pages, we're critiquing it. What happens after that it culminates into this?
Well, yeah, after you write your first draft and your readers looked over it and you've got your critique, and then you go back and you have to format it to a specific standard, which you should start writing.
And the software is proprietary to each. Like Amazon.com is different than the Barnes & Noble.
But really,
on the ebooks, yeah.
Yes.
But really, you write it in Word generally, and then you take that Word document and you upload it into Amazon or into Smashwords, and they convert it into the format that they sell to. You include your cover art and your inside pages where you say thank you to all my friends for reading this, and any links back to the other works that you've had. What I need to put in is a link to please review my work.
Yeah,
let other people know
yeah,
it's out there. And then it goes online, and you start sending the links out to friends and family, talking where you can talk about it,
and so you can, once you've got your paperback, so you can do both independent publishing for the ebook and the printed book. Can you get this book into a brick and mortar store?
It depends. Some of them, you know, and I was just in one here in St. Charles. I was coming back to Kansas City here a couple of weeks ago, and it's the type of bookstore that this book would fit in. And the owner wasn't there. I talked to the owner previously, and she'd said, you know, possibly. And then the clerk was there that day said, oh no, we just buy from Ingram's and that. And so. Yeah. But now I was just in Aquarius here on Broadway in Kansas City. Barbara great lady, and she says, "Oh yeah, we'll do a book signing. We'll do this. Be happy to do it." And so it depends. Yeah, it really depends. If you're going to go in there and help promote it and help them sell some books, but the bookstores aren't there. I did a book signing at the sailing store over in Lawrence here and sold books. So,
because yours is very specific to sailing.
Well, it's not. I don't want to give the impression it's just about sailing. Sailing just happens to be the vehicle for telling the story, because the story is a lot more about sailing.
But my question was that you have to get very creative about marketing then. I mean, because walking into Aquarius, I mean, you have a very mystical or metaphysical perspective as your author's voice, and a store like Aquarius would be appropriate.
Exactly. Yeah.
So getting creative about the marketing, how do you do that when everybody has a blog, when everybody has a Facebook page, when everybody is on Twitter?
Well, yeah, everybody has that, so you have to find ways to step out. Richard's got great little business cards with the little.
I walked up. I was sitting in a roadside or a little beachfront park down in Fort Myers here a couple of months ago, and a guy was reading a Kindle out there, and I had these cards printed up with the cover of the book and the back of it, just a couple of reviews and a QR code that you can scan with your smartphone, and it takes you to the Amazon site where you can buy the.
You can scan this, and it'll take you straight. Wow!
It'll take you right straight to the place you can buy the book. He came up to me a couple of days later and asked me to sign the card because he had bought the book. He wanted me to sign the card like you normally sign a book,
right?
Because he said it was a great book, and he wanted something, which I was glad to hear. But he didn't have to do that. I mean, he sought me out and came up and did that. So.
Yeah. And then it sounds like you're being very successful, that you're experiencing some success and some momentum with your book.
I've made enough to buy a 6-pack.
Hey, that's success to me. And how about you? You're also independently published.
Yeah. As I said, I have one book out that I actually wrote in a setting designed by some illustrators that they said, we have this setting and we want to draw a lot of art for it. Can you come in and write a novel? So I wrote serial almost chapter by chapter, and we'd issue it on their website once a month. And when it wrapped up, then we turned it into a book and sold it on Amazon.
Wow.
So you get sales from that. But as I said, important for me is the long run. I want to put more titles out there, continue to get a whole online bookshelf of your own, where someone will pick one up and say, this is really fantastic, and they'll tell their friends about it, and they'll read that book, but they will also diversify into the rest of my catalog.
Right, you become one of their sought after authors.
Yeah, and I think that's for me, that's the biggest draw to publishing myself, is because even if I do sell my book to a traditional publisher, that's not instant success. Sci-fi and fantasy first-time authors would generally get an average of $5,000 for their advance, which will cover my promotion and not much more. But even if it does well, that's great. But if it doesn't, then it's out of print, and then the publishing company owns my rights still. I can't take that, turn it around, and offer it to somebody else. They have a hold of that.
Right.
But I can take one book now and I can put it on Amazon, and it'll be there forever. So I might not be a famous author until I'm 85, and then people will say, look at all this stuff, it's great. And it'll be out there available until it takes off.
My kids are going to make all the money off mine.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, guys, well, we've come to the end of part 2 of our wonderful discussion. Before we do go, please tell our viewers where to find your work. Amazon.com.
It's available at Amazon right now. It'll be available on Nook in another 6 weeks.
Yeah, you can search for The Unmade Man on Amazon, or Cayenne, Cinnamon, and Fire is a short story I'll be putting out.
Unmade Man?
The Unmade Man. Yeah,
Sounds good.
My website, dtgooden.com.
DT Gooden. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I've had a wonderful time.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time. And remember, stay art active. Take care.